Hi there, and welcome to Chick with a Plan. My name's Alicia, and today I want to talk to you about setting goals. Now, there's a million videos about setting goals, but I felt I needed to make this one because I really wanted to talk about setting up systems for your planner to make your life easier, to have routines and check ins and all that good stuff. But I realized that I can't really do that without first talking about goals and setting them. All right, so let's get into it. There's the life you want, and this informs the goals that you're going to have to get that life. And that informs the processes and the systems that you will need because success in most things in life and creating the life you want are usually in your daily routines or your weekly routines if something doesn't have to be done daily. And all that then goes into your planner. All right, so let's get into the first part. The first part of this is going to be dream your biggest, most impossible dream. And I know that sounds really corny, but there is a little bit of truth into that shoot for the stars and maybe you'll land on the moon kind of mentality. You'll at least get in the ballpark of something that you really wanted, if not actually achieving the goal itself. First step is going to be you're going to grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and just journal about what you think your ideal life is or what you envision for yourself and your family. And this is the part where, if you're a person of faith, you should really be praying to God and consulting Him and ask Him to inform your goals, ask Him to guide you, because after all, that's what He's there for. Some things you can do while you're doing this journaling is ask yourself questions like, what do you really want to achieve in life? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? What purpose do you think God has put you here for? What do you think He's put in your path that He wants you to take on? And also think about the experiences that you would like to have, like traveling goals or maybe learning new skills or doing something that's really fun. So, in doing this journaling, don't sweat it if you can't think super far ahead. A lot of times, when you don't really have much of a direction in life, it's a lot easier for you to just think about the next 6 months, what you would want then. Don't sit down and get overwhelmed and think you have to plan out the next 5 to 10 years. Just start with what's right in front of you, what you would like to see change, or and also what you feel like your purpose or your path is, and just go from there. Another tool that you could use in this journaling process to really figure out what you want in your life is the 10 life areas. You've probably seen it. It looks like a pie chart and it just is divided with different levels. And what you really do is just mark how satisfied you are in each of those areas of life and write down what you'd want to change. If you give it a quick Google or look on Pinterest, you'll find a million different variations of this. Just find one that works for you. The second part of getting your goals established is actually going to be narrowing it down and focusing on no more than three of the most important ones for you. And you can do this by just putting them on index cards and laying them out on a table and then organizing which one is more important than the other. And eventually, you should have 1 to 3 goals that you feel are super important to making a difference in your life. The thing is, you don't want to overwhelm yourself. It's really easy to do, especially if you're really ambitious or you have a bunch of different interests. You want to focus so you can actually get traction. If you're trying to balance changing your diet, working out, learning a new language, trying to start a business while working a day job and taking care of your family, you are going to just burn out. It's not going to work well for you. So it's best to actually pick the most important thing and just focus on that. It's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep. Don't spread yourself too thin. So, what to do with the goals that don't make it to the top three? Well, you can always organize them into which goal you'd like to tackle next after you've completed a goal so that you can just file that one right into the queue and you won't have that much lag time between finishing and then moving on to something else. And you can do this by just organizing them by order of importance to you in your planner or in your journal so that you have it somewhere for reference. And for those goals, you could always journal about what action steps you would need to take to meet them. And also, if there's any time constraints on those goals, you probably want to mark that down as well. So, for the third part of your goal setting process, you're going to want to break your goals down into milestones and action steps. Now, in this, you want your milestones and your action steps to be as concrete as possible so you can measure whether or not you're making progress on your goals. For instance, if you're wanting to lose 40 pounds, you know that your milestones are going to be along the lines of measuring your inches and your pounds that are coming off. And your action steps are going to be along the lines of changing your diet, maybe signing up to a gym, or maybe doing home workouts several times a week. And that's all stuff that you could schedule out. Now, that is a concrete to concrete kind of example of a goal. But then you have abstract to concrete. And this is where it gets a little grayer, let's say. So, let's say you want to start your own business because you want to support your family. Well, there's a lot of different things you could do, and there's a lot of different ways to go about this. And some are going to be more abstract. Your abstract part might be, well, what are you really interested in? What kind of products do you want to offer, or what kind of services do you want to offer? It might take a while to kind of nail down what you want that to be. But eventually, it should become more concrete, and you should be able to establish routines within your business. Like, I want to sit down with 3 clients each week, or I want to make 15 products this week and have that routine for every week. So the third goal example is abstract to abstract. And I know this sounds a little funky, but for example, the goal of getting better at art, which is one I'm always working on. And it's one that's a little harder to measure. I mean, yeah, you can choose goal areas like I want to get better at dynamic lighting, I want to get better at proportions, and you will see improvements in your art, but you're measuring the progress is going to be a little harder because you're always looking through your own perspective, and it's just subject to your inner critic. So that one's going to be a little harder to pin down, but it's not impossible, and practice makes perfect. All right, so your next thing is going to be your timeline for those milestones and action steps. Now, some are a little easier to set, like going to the gym or changing your diet. I mean, those are pretty immediate changes. And of course, the milestones are going to be the harder part of that. Um, Maybe it's just weighing yourself every week just to see how far you've gone. Or maybe you could do that for a couple of weeks to see if you're really getting any progress. And then you can kind of figure out how long it will eventually take you to lose your goal weight. And then you can just plot it that way. Another way to do this is if it's something you've never done before or something that's kind of hard to nail down, just give it your best estimate. You can always adjust. The thing is, you need to remain flexible about achieving goals because if you're really hard, like on the timeline, and you're inflexible, you're probably going to actually just abandon the goal instead of actually keep working at it. Think of it as an experiment. Don't put so much pressure on it, but put your effort into it. A note on action steps: actually look at your schedule and also take into account future schedules. Okay, for instance, if you have kids and they do sports during a certain season, you know that a lot of your time is going to be taken up And if you've done this before, you probably have a rough idea of how many nights a week you're going to be driving all over the place, taking them to and from games or practices. So you can kind of anticipate whether or not your time is going to be available for those action steps. So keep in mind as you're moving through seasons and you're moving through different phases of the year that you need to calculate that into how long it's going to take you to reach your milestones or to reach your act or to do your action steps. Now that you have your timeline, it's time for you to build your structures and routines to enable you to achieve the goals. And the structures and routines are going to consist mainly of any action steps that have to be repeated on a pretty regular basis. And they're also going to consist of check ins to make sure you're actually making progress. They're going to consist of planning cues for you to check and adjust if you're not meeting your goals or adjust if you're ahead of schedule. So you're just going to be making sure you have some sort of structure in place that's going to keep you moving forward on it. And this is going to be probably like a little checklist that's staggered in your planner so that you can go through and like your daily, this is your daily check off, your weekly, this is what you're looking at each week. And maybe it's something you only have to check in monthly. In that case, you're just going to have it under monthly and you're just going to put, I need to check in on this goal or evaluate where I am in the process of this. It doesn't have to be super complicated, so don't make it too complicated because chances are you'll just dread interacting with it and then you're not going to achieve your goal. It's time to automate the monotonous. What is the monotonous? So, the monotonous is going to be your regular life routine tasks that you have to do to keep life going, like paying the bills or taking care of something once a week or cleaning and delegating to your family members what they need to do that week. Go through and try to automate as much as you can just because sometimes when we are taking on goals, we have a tendency to kind of like get really busy and then it's hard for us to remember to do things we need to do, like getting the oil changed or paying bills. Like sometimes that happens. Sometimes you forget to pay a bill. um, but anyways, just make sure that you have something that is like a mental cue and it's going to remind you of each thing that has to be done on a regular basis. That way, you're not dealing with mental fatigue or decision fatigue by trying to remember everything. Like, the worst thing you can do is open up your planner and be like, okay, so what do I need to do this week? You've already failed. And for those routines and structures, let's say you have a weekly checklist and it's all your life task or whatever. It's great if you could just put that on like a bookmark that is hole punched to go in your planner, and then it just moves from week to week with you. That way, you don't have to rewrite the stuff in your planner. You don't have to use stickers or anything. You just have that bookmark and it just goes with you, and you can look at it to make sure you get everything done. And honestly, you can kind of do the same stuff with a monthly. Also, when plotting those check ins for your goals and the plannings and reviews, make sure that once you have established those, that you go into your planner and you write on every single like set date. Let's say you have like the third Saturday of the month is your day to check in, plan, and review for this certain goal. Maybe it's like where you are in building a business or where you are in your fitness journey. Make sure that you go through every month and write that down on that day so that it's your cue to go back and review everything and figure out where you need to go from there. And if you have extensive list that you have to go by during your weeklies, your dailies, or your monthlies, or maybe it's just like once a year stuff, then you can actually create a list section in your planner so that it's completely separate from the calendar section and just store all the things there and just write little notes in your monthly or your weekly to check back and review what you need to do from those lists. While we're on the topic of integrating your routines and your systems and structures into your planner with the list section or by using the bookmark method or using both, let's talk about time blocking. It's best to go ahead and block off whatever time you've established for your action steps so that something doesn't accidentally sneak in and grab that time slot from you, whether it's family or friends or appointments, anything like that. Your goal is going to be to protect your time around the things that are most important, which obviously family and friends are important, but what you do to move life forward and make it better for you and your family and to follow your purpose is also important. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.